Good evening, and welcome to the Falmouth Community Media Center and our 5th open mic night Poetic license. My name is Deborah Rogers, and I am the CEO of Falmouth Community Television. Falmouth Community Television is a 501c3 public charity and membership-based organization. Donations support FCTV's dedication to provide unparalleled access to local information and enhance the ways we educate, connect, and empower our community neighbors. I welcome you to our new facility, invite you to become a member, attend one of our many classes, and take advantage of all we have to offer. And now to introduce our wonderful host, Alice Kachimba. Alice is the founding director of Calliope Poetry for Community, and since 2009 has facilitated a monthly poetry discussion group at the Falmouth Public Library. She is the first poet to receive a literacy award from the Cape Cod Council of the International Reading Association for promoting literacy through poetry. Please join me in welcoming our wonderful host, Alice Kachimba.
It's so good to see everybody again. And you are intrepid performers. You're out in the cold and in the dark, and we're going to really light up the night here and keep everybody warm with the pleasures of community. So that is wonderful, and I want to thank Andrew Richards and Deborah Rogers and the Falmouth Community TV station. And I have to tell you that now when I go out, even to like a store on Main Street, somebody says, I saw you on TV. Or I run into somebody even in the Mashpee Stop and Shop, and they say, oh, is it still happening? Is it still going to happen? I said, yes. Check out the website, stay in touch with Falmouth Community TV, and we're here for you. This is our community. So tonight, as anybody who's new, we have a 4-minute slot of performance. It can be original poetry, it can be music, it can be spoken word, it can be comedy, and some of it is all of the above. So my job is to keep it flowing. Andrew will signal me if anybody goes really over, but we have 12 performers, so you don't have to worry so much, but we'll keep it going. So our first performer is John Jackson. Please welcome John.
This is how you move the mic. I have a blog of political limericks called limericksofprotest.com. I have a small sample. So many poets, you'd think we should stop making jest of the man at the top. We're all plowing the same field, yet we still get great yield because he is so full of crop. This is going back a couple of weeks. I just plumbed what was recent. His words all come out in a rush on topics that would make Lincoln blush. He should improve his diet, then he could try it to see how many times he should flush. Any time that a weapon is fired and innocent lives are expired, their untimely end meant a strong Second Amendment. Oh, Lord, I am so effing tired. Time's honors. He thought he should make it. His golf club displayed covers that fake it. His dreams have been sundered when they named Greta Thunberg. Watch his tweets to see how he will take it. That was prophetic and quick. The president wrote a long letter to the House Speaker trying to upset her. Now, give the man credit. He did write and self-edit. Else the grammar would have been better. He's always done what he damn well please. In the top office, that practically guarantees the House disapproval. But Senate removal, they could let it hang over him like Damocles. Not everything I've done is quite that deep. This surfaced from a while ago. I wrote this back in 2005, and some poems come out better as songs. Where did you come from and where will you go? What makes you someone and how do you know? What's in your past? What's been left behind you? Can you forget at last? What will remind you? Creation has a band and we all are the dancers. Questions call the tune and we move to the answers. So where have you been and what have you done? Is the answer within, and is there more than one? Are you in? Are you out? Are you somewhere between? Do you dream? Do you doubt? Do you know what it means? We sing and rehearse life's songs set before us. Free will is the verse, and truth is the chorus. Were you ever unwise? Have you seen the light? Must you close your eyes to sleep through the night? Have you lost? Have you won? Will you know when you're dead? When it's all said and done, did you do what you said? We face these mysteries, come up from the ages, while we write our history on the world's pages. Creation has a band, and we all are the dancers. Questions call the tune, and we move to the answers. Timekeeper, do I have time for one more? Sorry, I thought that was off. Yeah, let me just take care of that one detail. I'll call you back, Izzy. I have to. Bye. I am so embarrassed. Although I have done greetings from the pulpit at church before a church service and had my wife call me so that I have to answer from the pulpit just before the service and have her say, "Turn off your cell phones." So, there's your reminder. I used to work with a woman who, every time she talked about anything at all that she had done outside of work, it always ended up with where they went at the end of the day and what they had to drink. She had a parrot. The parrot store was next to a Polynesian restaurant. So it was always, "Yesterday, me and Bill, we went to the bird store, and then we went to the Makaha for Mai Tais." So, having too much time on my hands, I wrote this song. I was just thinking that we should go drinking, and so I'm deciding where we'll go imbibing. If you don't object, well then I will select and we'll go to Wang Fu's for Mai Tais. I'm not a fella who finds an umbrella in my drink, a threat like those macho guys. Though one thing I fear is the fruit on a spear, because sometimes it sticks in my eye. Some will get plastered on suffering bastard, and some lose control in the scorpion bowl, and the rest can stay here and just guzzle their beer while you and I go for Mai Tais. A poo-poo platter, well that wouldn't matter. You want one on fire, get the larger size. But no more crab rangoon, or I fear pretty soon I'll spill hot and sour soup on my tie. I've had a rough day, so let's hit the buffet. No dinner's complete without something to eat, but only one plate. She says I'm gaining weight, and Chinese food sticks to my thighs. Well, looky, here's the fortune cookie. When you're having fun, oh my, how the time flies. But I'm still feeling great, and it's not too late to have just one more round of Mai Tais. Thank you.
Look at this. All right. Oh, thank you so much. I have a funny feeling that there's going to be more to write about in the next couple of months.
When I was here last in September, the last thing I said is, I have to come up with a good rhyme for Ukraine.
Well, you'll still have time, I promise. That's great. And I must admit, to do the a cappella singing on top of it, that's amazing too. So our next performer is a musician, Ted Phil. Ted, I think it's your first time here. Welcome. Welcome even more.
I'm going to sit down for the ease of playing. Maneuverability. Ooh, look at that. Fancy. Sure. For the comfort. Total. That good right there? That'd be great. It's an original song I wrote about the gap between the wealthy and the poor, called Disparities. I hope you like it. One man's wealth is another one's poverty. One man's love is another one's apathy. So it seems we just regress, with disregard for those with less. One man's truth is another one's shameless lie. Another one's peace is another one's war to die. Those who hold all the wealth have small regard for poor man's health. One man's living is another one's misery. While one man gives, another one rolls in greed. And the rich take more from those with less, while building walls for nothing regret. And the rich man laughs while the poor man cries. And another one walks while yet the poor man slowly dies. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's great, Ted. Yes, we liked it. So please keep coming back. So our next performer is Mike Borden, who's also on the guitar, it looks like. Mike.
Probably needs to come up a little more, sorry. Yeah, that's fine. Boy, cold and humidity play havoc on instruments, but I'm not going to try to tune it again. So, this is a song I wrote. It's called More Than Enough. It's a country song. say that little is much if God is in it. And there's a fountain of life that flows forever free. Well, God, I sure am little, and I don't feel like too much. But by your grace, that fountain gonna flow out of me. 'Cause you are more than enough when times get hard, more than enough when it's easy. Knowing you, my Lord and God, is peace beyond all reason. Circumstance might press in, the weather may get rough, but I know there's a fountain where a little faith can move a mountain. And Jesus, who you are, is more than enough. Lord, the grace you offer is overwhelming, and that it don't depend on nothing I can do. 'Cause I believe you died for me, you were buried and you rose, and that's the power that's working to get me through. You are more than enough when times get hard, more than enough when it's easy. Knowing you, my Lord and God, gives me peace beyond all reason. Circumstance might press in, the weather may get rough, but I know there's a fountain where a little faith can move a mountain. And Jesus, who you are, is more than enough. Jesus, who you are, is more than enough. Thanks.
That was wonderful, Mike. You're multi-talented. That was amazing. So it's always hard to follow a musician, but our next poet is somebody I know who can do it. Please welcome Millie White. Millie.
Next time I'm going to ask for an accompaniment. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Yes? Okay. So, last summer, into the fall, and then to just last week, I worked on a 3-page poem called Trees. And I even cut stuff out of it, and it was still longer than 4 minutes. So, and I even added, though, a last verse, so it would be for the holiday season. But it was still too long, so I'm reading another one. and this was made possible to still be at holiday time because this night visitor that I had for years showed up on a cold night. So I changed the title from Night Visitor to Night Visitor at Holiday Time. So it's still within the holiday. Jackie's laughing at me. Okay. I first met him whilst he was in a cage. Do not worry, for he was not trapped in one. His bright, huge eyes showed no fear as I stepped ever closer to him. Eyes black and shining with an innocence I had not seen when he flashed like a lightning bolt from tree to tree and edged his way with one last leap toward the tube of seed. It was surrounded by a cage to keep out squirrels. Aha! The makers of this device had never seen a flying squirrel navigate its tiny holes. Nor had I until his brown and amber body had found at last the sunflower seeds galore. With little hands, he gently took them from the tube and saved some in his cheek for later on. Marveling at his bravery, I moved yet closer still. His coat appeared as silken fur, which gathered in a wrinkled cloak around his waist. He thought to leave a few times, but stayed to gather more. Once, with evening meal complete, he smoothly passed again through bars of steel and flung himself through air and space. Whilst reaching out with tiny hands and feet and stretching out his wrinkled coat, he made himself into a furry kite. Flat rudder tail helped change his course as I whispered a goodbye. Sometime, and somehow I knew we'd meet again, as he sailed and leapt and sailed and leapt and glided into night. And he did. He came back last night. Thank you.
You're sort of our local Mary Oliver, Millie. That's great. You're our local Mary Oliver. That's great. Thank you. And our next poet is Jackie Finney. Jackie.
Good evening. I'm so glad Millie's so happy with the flying squirrel I deposited in her yard the other day. So I will start with saying, Dobry večer, my tovarich. Recently, journeying back from Minsk, sleigh riding, I, Catherine the Great of Russia, bring you Christmas tidings, closed in this magnificent tasseled cape. Carol Burnett's Gone with the Wind episode I ape. I saw this under a Christmas tree in Petersburg and just had to have it. Thoughts of Christmas gifts this year, subtitled Surplus Repurposed. The problem being how to wrap them. Aha! I'll use a wrapper beat. Build a rhythm, then repeat too. These are a few of my favorite things. Here's a Christmas wreath in proxy. Let me shake my tambourine and take some oxy, plus a swig or two of Hood's eggnog. Jones and me, that's some good grog. So won't you sing along? Jingles and jangles and mittens on kittens, ideas quite wrangled by synopsis entangled, all just to finagle a parody of sorts, objective being and hilarity purport, crocheted skinny thongs, once mine, size 18 to 20, Australian boomerang and doodangs aplenty, dented white ping-pong balls, including the rat paddles. But wait just a minute, there's more of this chattel. Silky Malaysian sarongs and photos of Thailand's clongs, Rachel Ray's kitchen tongs, miscellaneous tiles from my game of mahjong, and boxes of burnt-out electrical prongs, that's the word, whatever. Old Chinese black oolong tea and breast Tibetan gongs, old chops in jade, the name being Wong, and a ancestry chart relating my relation to King Kong, and a signed poster of Cheech and of Chong. Hear the church bells ringing, ding dong. Now I must soon be ending this song. Brevity is surely a component to use if one wants to maximally amuse. 'Tis not the gift gotten, whether hand-did or store-bought, that will not be forgotten. Rather time spent together
and the words begat is really where any Christmas is at. Yo, yo, and a happy ho, ho, ho. Spasiba.
I think it's hard to come after Jackie, too. But I can never wait to see what you're going to do next, I have to tell you. It makes me smile. So our next performer, I think, is also his first time here for a Poetic License, but it's Rich Latimer. Rich.
Hi, my name is Rich Latimer. If I'm a familiar face to you, it's probably because you've seen me at town meeting, where I have several times been the recipient of Troy Clarkson's Yakety Yak Award, and proud of it. You know, Donald Trump is the first president in memory not to have a dog. There's a reason for that. He doesn't like dogs. It started when he was a little kid, 10 years old, in the home in Queens. He's playing with his erector set in the family room, building red-lined apartment buildings like his dad. And the family dog goes over to the door, and he's whining like he wants to go out. Little Donnie gets up, opens the door. The dog just stands there and growls. He wants him to go out. And yes, I borrowed that from Rodney Dangerfield. Anyway. Well, a Gipper come out of Hollywood. You know, I write songs and I forget my own lyrics. Skipper, come out of Hollywood. Oh, come on, this is embarrassing. I'm going to do another song. Well, the Gipper come out of Hollywood, but reality TV's just as good to help us make America great again. So the Donald, he'll be standing tall, and the Mexicans gonna build that wall when he makes America great again. Great again. Great again. Oh, he's a zillionaire, he's rich as Croesus, but he says his prayers because he found Jesus just in time to make us great again. So we don't care if he makes no sense, because now he's praying with Mike Pence. That's how he makes America great again. Great again. Great again. Yeah, he'd have won that medal in NAM for sure, but he couldn't go because he caught bone spurs. That's why he's going to make America great again. Because he's a real hero when he talks big talk and tweets and tweets around the clock. That's how he makes America great again. Great again. Great again. He's a billionaire and a bigot. He's a bigot and a billionaire. That's why we know he really cares to help us make America great again. He's a divorcee, but he ain't gay, so he knows how to lead the way. Help us make America great again. Great again. Great again. Yeah, he don't need no corporate backers, cause he's got them Russian hackers helping us make America great again. He's a real American, you're not tootin', that's why he's sucking up to Putin, just to make America great again. Great again. Great again. Yeah, Vladimir Putin's a real badass, and Donald Trump's a real grab ass. That's why they make America great again. 'Cause the Donald got a big man crush on that little beady-eyed Russian, and that's why they'll make America great again. Great again. Great again. Got tons of dough, lots of class, his wife's a real piece of yes, that's why they'll make America great again. He's got white skin, he's got blue eyes, so we don't care how much he lies, he's gonna make America great again. Great again. Great again. I just had to get the right tune in my head, that was the problem.
Again, thanks, Rich, and keep coming back. I think you're going to have more material going forward. And always, it's hard to come after a musician, but this next poet will do fine. Sue Clark.
No poetry tonight, but a story. Hope I get through it all. 11 years ago, I was trying to sell my condo, and the real estate lady said, "Why don't you meet up with Joseph?" She explained his qualifications and his good reputation, and I said, "I'll think about it." So the next day at work, I was telling people about this guy, Joseph, and one of my customers says, "Hey, I'm going to sell my house, and I'm going to meet up with him today. I'll let you know how it goes." Well, that afternoon, she came back, and she handed me a little box. And inside was a statue of Joseph. That Joseph. Saint Joseph. Joseph the carpenter. The husband of Mary, the earthly father of Jesus. Okay. The directions said to plant him at the base of the for sale sign. Now, the condo association says you can't have for sale signs. So I did the best. I planted him at the end of my walk, as directed, feet to heaven, head down, facing the front door. It also said you're supposed to pray to him every day. Well, that didn't happen, but I did say, "Hey, Joe, how you doing?" as I walked by. Now, I planted Joseph middle October. By middle November, I had a purchase and sales agreement passing scheduled for the first week in February. The directions also said to dig him up, take him to your new house, and put him in a place of honor. Now, by the end of January, the ground was pretty well frozen, and it was going to be even colder. I said, well, you know very well that a house is never passed until the check clears. I took the chance, dug him up, took him to my new house, put him on the windowsill in my garage, next to all my woodworking tools and the wood and the sawdust. Figured he'd be happy there. We passed on the house on the 4th of February. Go, Joe. So all that year, I saw him, and he got covered with more sawdust. But he looked so lonely. And then in the fall, I thought, what would Joseph want? Came to me one day, Mary. Now, my favorite store is the swap shop at the Falmouth Dump. I have great luck there. If I'm thinking of something, maybe I'd like that. It's there. Get all my books there. It's wonderful. First week in December, there on the table is Mary, next to a broken creche. No wise guys, no shepherds, no animals, no baby. Just Mary. took her home, cleaned her up, put her on the windowsill next to Joseph. And if you think this is a tall story, there's Joseph, and there's Mary. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. And I'm sure the next time you come back, you'll be bringing baby Jesus.
Empty nest.
So our next performer is Josh Rodman. Josh, hey, welcome back.
Good evening. So I'm working with a few different poems tonight. I have one titled one and a couple untitled. I'll start with the titled one. And this one is called Control. Worlds of observation, touching life to feel no edge, moments unfurling softly, aside governing designs. The user lives for moments solely, fiendish for a rush, seeking for a purpose, wanting for a cure. Entanglements, engagements, and the rigors of necessity. Time is but a passage, living is collecting rolls, moments breezing gently, just within control. We dive for finding, whispers to our name, into puddles, oceans vast, we're diving all the same. Seeing without knowing, discovery being grand, truth only in a moment, passing through my hand. And that's the first one. And some of these other ones that I'm working on, they're more like they're coming together. So I work on them off and on. This one doesn't have a particular title right now, but I find it sort of interesting. So it goes: nature nurtures and rips to shreds, insufferable sludge flooding heads, calcified veins like playing dead. Effluent wellspring surrounded by grotesque caricatures, everywhere wasting, stretching on, the new continuum of dismal geometry, a scattered, hobbled array of sickening traditions, the spectrums of gray from which we cannot add or take away. Vision is more than doubled, the million plus a million plus a million times anonymous thousands of haunted, craven, famished eyes. And then, for one more, it's also untitled, but it's in various different sections, and I'm still sort of working on it, but I'll try to get through some of it. So it goes: living in a technical sense, we, the vast majority, confined within, spilling, nearing empty, spent and tired now, given all but more to give, relegation to the past, leaving empty vessels now cast. The first climax beckons the middle act, fill with anything to bask in repurposed glory, then it seems there is no end to any story. For even as our worlds grow vacant, so are extant innumerable fingerprints, monuments, sacraments, bookmarking and bookending tales of existence. Maybe historical epics correspond to seasons. If so, are we nearing the end of winter? The fabled meaning, definition warping and faded, serious becomes comical, answers become questions. Soon enough, semantics are forgotten, for in their time, stars too must burn out, dying in a functional sense, them, a vague minority, flowing without, expanding the mind beyond the mortal shells. Vortex of spirits beckoning, more alive than life, more real than reality. A light resides within. It is calling us. We approaching functional immortality. Thanks.
That's great, Josh. Keep coming back. And it's always great to end a poem with immortality. It's sort of like being on TV. We have our own little piece of immortality. So our next poet is Donna Shear. Donna.
Chucky. My name is Donna Shear. My ears on straight? Okay. These are two seasonal poems, and the first one is called Presto Changeo. My window, a front row seat, as first snow transforms the landscape. I see Bob Ross shadows rippling navy blue over the banks, flaked coconut mounding the mailboxes. Streets become ice skating mirrors where ghostly cars skitter and skew. Already boots at birds imprint hieroglyphics in the white stuff, while branches bend under the bounty. I shovel on layers, downy, knitted, and neoprene, waddle out the door, a well-rounded Christmas goose. As my little dog snowplows his nose through the drifts, my nose blooms a pink rosette in the middle of my face. Stamping and tramping back into the house and out of the outerwear, shivers turn to rivers flowing in a patchwork pile by the door. And once more at the window, most magic of all, I watch a marshmallow snowman dance with my spoon, swirling, puddling down into the sweet charity of hot chocolate. That was a true story. This one, I write a lot of letters and notes. Nothing thrills me more than getting something in my mailbox. I'm not sure where to send this one. It's called Dear Santa, or whatever you call yourself. Dear Santa, my apologies. I get you mixed up with God. Long white beards, perennial smiles, omniscient, magical, and always the promise of gifts, if I ask, or wheedle and whine. I've never seen you in person, Papa Noel, but I do know your voice. That year my brother and I had our tonsils removed, he due to inflammation, and me as part of some weird package deal. Just before Christmas, you called on the telephone. Tongue-tied, I could hardly believe it. But I did believe. And I still believe. Mom admitted years later it was Emil Mostu, a man in our apartment building who made the call. But it didn't sound like Emil Mostu. On which list does my name appear, St. Nick? Have I been a good girl? Good enough? Restraining my tendencies towards jealousy, I've slept alone, although, Jimmy Carter, forgive me, I have lusted in my heart. My house is a battleground and the clutter is winning. I spend so much time scribbling, the laundry is Rocky Mountain high. But is that really how you judge people? Because, Father Christmas, if you're keeping track, you might notice I have the kindest heart. I love, I hug everybody. If I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong, and sorry. Imperfect, but always trying. So, if that's not what you're looking for, Mr. Kris Kringle, I'm taking my petition elsewhere. Dear God,
That's another great word to end a Santa poem. Dear God. That's what I say oftentimes. Dear God. So our next poet is Lisbeth Abrams. Lisbeth.
I have two poems. The first one, it's called Spinach is Green. Go ahead, eat the spinach. At this point in your life, do you really think it matters if you have an allergic reaction? Or are you afraid that nothing will happen and you will realize that your entire life has been a lie? I was angry when I wrote that one. And then I have another one. This one is called Hellebores Bloom in Late Winter. So, I am weeping and furious while squatting in the dirt by the side of the garage because I'm trying to plant a hellebore for you. But all you are doing is yelling at me from the deck, and I can hardly hear what you are saying, except I can tell you are yelling at me, damn you. I am not digging in the right spot. You want it here, you want it there. It's never where you want it. A year ago, you would have been in the dirt with me, and we would have been digging and planting and laughing together. Now you yell at me from your wheelchair, and nothing is right. Thanks.
That's amazing. Thank you. And our next poet, I think you might remember, is Rich Humans. Rich.
Evening, everyone. I'm going to read something about family tonight, specifically my mother. She was a childhood juvenile diabetic, and one of the complications from the disease is that over time she gradually lost her sight. And while I was growing up, it got worse and worse until ultimately she actually went blind. She lost her sight entirely. And this piece is about how she got past that. And it's written in the Japanese Haiban forms. As I'm going through it, periodically there's going to be a little haiku here and there. The piece is titled Throne. Her husband saw the notice first. The Philadelphia Museum will offer pottery classes for the blind every Thursday from 9 until noon, he read aloud. He lowered the paper and looked across at her, as if that still mattered. By then, it had been 2 months since the second retina detached beyond repair, 1 week since she threw her cane across the living room in a fury of frustration and self-pity, smashing one of her Hummel figurines. She looked across at him, her jaw tensing, her gaze directed to a point somewhere beyond his left ear. She nodded once, and he raised the paper. Digging deeper, under dry topsoil, cool touch of clay. That first morning, before the gray van pulled into the driveway, she sat in her rocker as if waiting to be arrested. When the van arrived, an acne-faced man in an orange watch cap, Jeff, she learned on the second visit, helped her down the front steps and into the back seat, next to a large woman in a floral print dress and sunglasses similar to hers. She stared straight ahead as the van sped off. A few minutes past 1, she returned home with misshapen pots and lopsided bowls, refugees from a Dali painting. What can you expect from someone who flunked arts and crafts, she said. But she stayed with it. Over the weeks her pots and bowls smoothed, straightened. How do they look, she began to ask. Lump of clay. All the shapes deep within. Classes changed with the seasons. During the holidays when everyone made ceramic mugs, her handles kept falling off. That year the whole family got decorative pencil holders for Christmas. In the spring, she made a long, thin vase, and her husband chose a flower with the most fragrant scent. By then, she had begun to tackle household chores, dusting, setting the table. She learned how to make her own cups of tea. Dad glued toothpicks to the oven dials, bought pots with lips for easy pouring. That summer, she entered an abstract phase, creating pieces that made everyone scratch their heads. One, the size of a thick dog bone, had been twisted and perforated and painted dung brown. She called it the ins and outs of life. The other, an unpainted white disc growing out of a square base, she titled Unlimited Horizons. Her husband wondered what she envisioned. He closed his eyes, hoping to catch a glimpse. potter's wheel, as if this clay could climb forever. Thank you.
Well, as somebody who's just taken up pottery, I'll tell you it's harder than it looks. That's a great Hyben. Thank you. And I'm going to end the open mic, and I'm going to read two poems that are set right at this time of year, the week of Christmas. And the first is about my very first job. Anybody who grew up in the city of Boston would know if you went from one neighborhood to another, you went from one world to another based on class. And I grew up in a part of town that if you took the subway, you could go into a whole other world. So my first job was on Newbury Street in Boston. So this is about that, and this is a true story. And at the end, the amount of money this person spent on shoes was more than my father made in a week. Heels. I met Judy Garland right before she died on Christmas Eve. Barely 16, my first real job, a cashier at 0 Newbury Street. Spotlights bounced off mirrored shelves where high-heeled shoes and pointy-toed boots not meant for comfort or warmth or women's feet. $90 for the cheapest pair. Glittery, dangerous, seductive. Wear me, and men will want you. She came in near closing time in full-length mink that couldn't keep at bay the bite of holiday lonely. Bright red lipstick, spots of rouge, gobs of black mascara highlighted her haunted, glassy eyes, wide with the dread of barely living. Every salesman kneeled at her dainty feet, vying to try to make her buy those not-quite ruby slippers, whose tap-tap-tap of heels and magic incantation failed to ever whisk her home. They descended again and again, vultures on commission. How I wanted to protect her, give her soothing tea and invite her home for supper. But I was shocked to see we had picked the pockets of the dying. So instead, I summoned the doorman at the Ritz to carry her 9 new pairs of senseless shoes she bought instead of having Christmas. And the next one is more upbeat. Does anybody else besides me have a December birthday in the room? I'm 2 days before Christmas. And are you as close to Christmas, Josh? 4 days after. Well, and so we have something in common. So this is for my mother. Happy birthday. My mother told me every year I was an inconvenient child, born 2 days before Christmas and a month too soon. She had cooked and cleaned all day, even scrubbed the bathroom down for family who seldom visited. After all, she was the one who moved away to the city where there were criminals and Catholics. And worse, she became one. Serves her right for getting pregnant again at 39 with number 5. Didn't she know she was too old for that? But they would come and bring the pies and presents wrapped in holier-than-thou. They arrived promptly at 1. The roast would be done at 2. The other labor had begun at noon, so she knew she'd be leaving before dinner. My mother always ended her story with a smile. It was the best Christmas I ever had, thanks to you. I was waited on and didn't have to lift a finger. Right. That's it. So we want to thank Falmouth Community TV and Andrew and Deborah and the volunteers. And please look around at the art here, and also check out their website, all their seminars and workshops that they have on media production of all types. and think about becoming a member. If you're like me, you make New Year's resolutions, and one of them for me is to get involved and stay involved in what makes Falmouth a community, and this is one of those places. We've been talking about January, what to do about January. It's not been decided, but we're trying to do a kids version of Poetic License. In January, they've asked me, Mass Poetry's asked me to go to the Lawrence Middle School as one of the poets and help middle school kids write and perform poetry. So after January 10th, I'll have a little bit more information to share with Andrew and Debbie about whether it's possible to do a kids version and get another part of our community in the room, and that's young people. So our next scheduled Poetic License, weather permitting, is Thursday, February 27th, 6 o'clock. So I guess we'll figure that out too and let you know. And one of the ways to say thank you is spread the word. People who came early on when we had, so many people, we had to turn them away. They sort of thought, well, maybe they didn't need to come. So if you see people and you know they have an interest in music and comedy and spoken word, just tell them that, we're here and to check out Falmouth Community TV. So really have a happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2020. Thank you.